Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. I'm your host, Drew, along with this week, Matt. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, everybody. Resident Bills fan filling in here for Rob. And also just to recap on a glorious weekend. What a weekend it was.
Yeah, so as we talked about last week, if you listened to the episode, Rob is in Africa. He was unable to do the podcast, but thankfully, Matt, one of my good friends, we talk a lot of football, was able to step in. I think it's going to be a really good episode. A lot happened in week 4, and so we want to get right into it, starting with the news of the week. And I think kicking off for news of the week, the big news, in my opinion, is the NFL changing its gambling policy. They made it actually more aggressive for people who gambled on NFL games, making it not just a year, but indefinite, minimum a year. But those who gambled on non-NFL games reduced from 6 games to 2 games, meaning that the big name getting reinstated this week is Jameson Williams after only 4 weeks. Matt, what are your thoughts on the change in the gambling policy?
I think these are good changes overall because it's leaning towards more the punishment being a teaching moment for these young players, especially in the case of Jameson Williams. Young guy, first season, probably wasn't in the room for that talk, and he gets penalized for it. So what we're moving towards is, okay, you're going to get suspended, but it's not that many games. Here's a teachable moment. If you do it again, though, you're in big trouble. And if you do it another time, you're in even bigger trouble. So you have some leniency, but there's some time to learn and for some young players coming in to really get the grasp of what are the rules, especially in a time and age where betting is so common now.
Yeah, and so what Matt's referring to, so it's 2 games for your first offense, but second offense is 6 games, and third offense is a full season. So it is a scaling punishment if you commit the act more than once. But I agree. Like, the thing that I thought was crazy was that, come on, Alvin Kamara literally on video beating up someone in a hotel hallway, 3 games. Jameson Williams places a bet at the team's away facility, 6 games. It makes no sense. Placed it from a hotel room. Like, it was a bad deal. I think they've rectified it. I think the big question for me is Jameson Williams going to get the money back for those 2 games he had? I think the NFL should make him whole. I'm not sure if they will, but he should get that money back.
Yeah, is the rule retroactive to the start of the season?
So it's retroactive in the sense that Jameson Williams is allowed to come back early after missing 4 games instead of the 6 he was initially assigned. But obviously he can't go and play in games that have already happened. The question is, can he at least get paid for those games that have happened? Mm-hmm. Yes, Jameson Williams, he was a first-round pick. He's going to make some decent money, but this is a guy who hasn't proven himself in the NFL. He just had a hamstring injury. He's coming off a torn ACL that he had in college. We don't know how this guy's going to be, and we don't know if this guy's ever going to get that second contract. I hope he does. I'm a Lions fan. Of course, I hope he works out, but if he doesn't get that second contract, getting those 2 games here, that's going to be at least $100,000, maybe $200,000. That's big-time money for anyone, even NFL players. I hope he gets it. But let's move on to the next topic of discussion. We just finished week 4, and what that means is everybody who started the season on the physically unable to play list, the PUP list, is back. Keena, who are some of the big names who are coming back, and what are your thoughts on how this impacts both the NFL as well as people's fantasy teams?
Well, I got to start, resident Bills fan here. I got to start with the big name for me. That's Von Miller coming back for the Bills. I don't think he's going to play this week because they're going out to England. But the Bills D has been unbelievable without him. I just can't imagine what they're going to be like with him.
Yeah, they are adding him, but they did lose their star corner, Tre'Davious White, to an Achilles injury. He's out for the season. The hope is that Von Miller can fill that hole, but the pass rush is doing well on its own. I do worry that has been the Achilles heel, no pun intended, to the Buffalo Bills in recent history. Their defense is great during the regular season, but they always seem to come into the playoffs hurt, and that's what's killed them in the Josh Allen era. It's been less Josh Allen and more their defense not showing up in those big games.
Yeah, they do have a first-round pick from 2022, Talyor, who lost out in training camp this year, but so he has a chance now to prove himself and fill in there and really jump up. So that's a positive in that sense. But moving on from the Bills, because I could talk about them all day and how amazing they are, we'll move to Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp are two other big names coming off. Now, and I know Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss has been doing pretty well in that role.
Yeah.
With him out. So, clearly that line is working this year and not like it was last year.
I mean, that line has historically been good. Quentin Nelson, we don't talk about him enough. He is one of, if not the best offensive guards in the league. And this is a team that has wanted to run the ball. They have made some moves. So, yeah, their offensive line looking pretty good for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then you got Cooper Kupp coming in for the Rams. It's like, and Matthew Stafford seems to be the only QB who can put up historic numbers with receivers, because Puka Nacua is on track for one of the best receiving seasons in NFL history. And the other two guys, Cooper Kupp and Megatron, were Matthew Stafford receivers.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right there. Cooper Kupp, I don't know if he's going to play this week. And as you said with Von Miller, the thing to note, so once you're activated from the PUP, you have 21 days to play. So they don't have to play right away. It just means they have 21 days to start practicing with the team before they play. As well, teams don't need to activate players from the PUP. A perfect example is the Cardinals are not activating Kyler Murray. They don't think he's ready right now. Maybe they're trying to tank, but right now, seeing how Josh Dobbs is performing, he might be better than Kyler Murray. Sorry to the Oklahoma and Cardinals fans out there who still love Kyler Murray, but there's a reason they're in the tank war for one of Drake May, Shurter Sanders, or Caleb Williams.
Well, when's the new Call of Duty out? Are they kind of organizing?
It's a great point. When is the new Call of Duty out?
It's got to be soon, so you can't activate Kyler before that.
Yeah, you got to let him get through at least one or two double XP weekends before you activate him.
And then he'll be good.
Yeah, then he's fine.
Goodbye tanking.
But yeah, the last thing in news and notes, just want to go over this quickly because we are running a little behind, but Taylor Swift at MetLife Stadium for that Sunday Night Football. What are your thoughts on all the Taylor Swift news? It's been massive. The NFL has been promoting it like no tomorrow.
I think overall it's good for the NFL. You're bringing in fans who would never actually typically watch an NFL game, but it's getting a little overplayed. And and especially because you gotta watch the Jets. It's like Taylor Swift. You could she's watched the Jets and the Bears. It's like, come on, go to some better games.
Yeah. Now, she does have her tour restarting in November, so at that point in time, we're not going to really see her at any games. But throughout the month of October, there might be more Taylor Swift sightings, and I'd put good money on the fact that she didn't pay for that box. She didn't pay for the flight there. Travis Kelce didn't pay for either of those. I bet you anything, after what happened the previous week where the Bears and Chiefs in that absolute romp was the highest viewed game, highest rated game, I bet the NFL called up Taylor Swift and said, we will pay for a box for you. We will allow you to bring anyone you want. We will pay for a flight. Just come here, because that Chiefs-Jets game, while it ended up being a good game, I don't think anyone expected that. And so they're like, if Taylor Swift's in the house, though, we'll still get ratings, and that's what matters.
Yeah. And cherry on top, bring Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Hugh Jackman.
Exactly.
But
and,
please, don't have...
was there. Brittany Mahomes was there, too.
Sure. Where was Jackson? I don't care.
Yeah, no, everyone's happy Jackson Mahomes wasn't there. We don't want to go into Jackson Mahomes, and that's the perfect time to move into the weekly recap. So talking a bit, I did say that Jets and Chiefs game was pretty good. I watched it live on stream. Game was a lot more competitive. Chiefs jumped out to a 17-0 lead, but Zach Wilson and the Jets fought back, tied at 20-20, and lost 23-0. Or not 23-20. What are your thoughts on that game?
Zach Wilson, you look pretty good. It's like, good job. It's you on paper. We're a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and here's a crazy stat. That was the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, NFL or college, that the opposing quarterback had more completions, more yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions. And it was Zach Wilson was the first quarterback to do that.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he's always played bad quarterbacks. He's gone up against very good quarterbacks in his career.
Yeah, he's gone up against Tom Brady. He's gone up against Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, a lot of these guys multiple times. And you'd expect playing these guys multiple times, at least once one of these elite quarterbacks would do that, because they all kind of compare. Completions lead to yards, lead to touchdowns, and if you're getting all that, you're probably not throwing picks. So like they're all correlated.
No, it's kind of shocking and good on Zach Wilson. It's like, I have a sort of sadness for the Jets and the Giants. So it's nice to see there's some positivity coming out of the Meadowlands right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been a very positive season for either of those teams, but at least the Jets, there's a shimmer of hope. They do play the Broncos this week in Denver, so maybe a chance for Zach Wilson to string together 2 big games. We saw what Justin Fields did against them last week in that toilet bowl of a game. 34-28 for the Broncos. But yeah, Justin Fields, 4 tutties, all passing. Very limited rushing yards, but over 300 yards passing. Is Justin Fields good?
No. Just the Broncos are bad.
Yeah, and that's my view too. Zach Wilson did that against a very good defense in the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been very solid on defense all year long, but the Broncos are not a good team, which is why I think Zach Wilson can do it again. Their defense, even though it was incredible last year, is somehow terrible this year. I'll be honest. I was wrong on that. I looked at the Broncos this year and said the defense is still going to be great and the offense can get better. I was right on the offense getting better. The offense is better, but the defense is the worst thing I've ever seen. And
I don't know how that switched.
Yeah, I don't know either. But either way,
four touchdowns by the Bears makes the Dolphins 10 touchdowns look like they should have gotten more.
Yeah, and I think the Dolphins kind of got exposed this week. Moving into that game, the Bills, and I'm sure you're very happy about this, 48-20 over the Dolphins. I think if they wanted to, they could have gone for 70. They had 48 points with like 14 minutes and 55 seconds left in the fourth quarter. That's around the same pace that the Dolphins were operating at when they did score 70.
Yeah, that's just Western New York type blue collar attitude. We don't need to be flashy. We just beat you down with our defense, and we'll see you in a couple of months in Miami.
Yeah, and you do want to play Miami later in the season because of that home field advantage Miami has. For those of you who don't know, Miami intentionally built its stadium so in day games it's shaded on the Miami sideline and the sun beats down on the opposing sideline. It's expected that it's about 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit difference on each sideline, and that's a huge home field advantage, and Miami definitely took advantage of that in that 70-20 win over the Broncos.
Yeah, the Dolphins beat the Bills at home last year for the same thing, early fall game. And I think it was 115 degrees on the Bills side, and there was heat exhaustion happening. Cramps, it was really bad. It's a drastic difference. And kudos to that architect. That is brilliant. I'm not mad about it. It's just brilliant.
No, take advantage of when you can make a home field advantage, take advantage. I don't think it's as good as, say, the Buffalo home field advantage, where Buffalo's just like, we practice all day, all night in the cold, so we're used to it, because at least Buffalo's advantage exists in the playoffs. Miami's advantage exists in weeks 1 through 7.
Yeah, you say that, but the Bills didn't do so well with their home field advantage last playoffs.
That's very
in the snow.
Very, very fair.
But we had a run game this year, so we might do fare better.
Yeah, James Cook is looking legit. First time ever we've had a run game not predicated on Josh Allen since the days of probably Fred Taylor, maybe Marshawn Lynch.
LaShawn McCoy was good for a few years.
Year or two, yeah. That's fair.
I mean, LaShawn McCoy has the famous snow bowl where you couldn't even watch the game if so much snow was falling down.
Yeah, true. But yeah, looking at some of the other games, one I'd like to talk about, the Lions absolutely thwomping the Packers 34-20 in a game that really didn't seem that close.
Justice for David Montgomery all those years on the Bears.
Yeah, he was 0-7 against the Packers prior to this game. Goes and puts up 3 tutties, 121 yards, another, I believe, 20 receiving yards. He looked good. The Lions looked good.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense looks, the first 2 weeks wasn't that special. They weren't getting pressure. Last 2 weeks, they're getting pressure. Their run defense has been stout since the beginning of the season. Their passing attack's great. Their running attack seems to be improved. This is a team, obviously I'm a homer. I personally view them as the best non-Super Bowl or bust team. I think there's 6 teams that are Super Bowl or bust, and that is the 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys in the NFC, the Bills, Chiefs, Dolphins in the AFC. I think they are 1 through 6, and I think clearly 1 through 6. I think the Lions slot in at 7.
Yeah, and I don't I agree, and I also want to make a point that I don't think the Packers are that bad. It's just the Lions were so much better.
No, I think the Packers are a good football team. Like, they were 2-1 coming into that team. The thing to note about the Lions, and obviously I know this, I'm a Lions fan. The Lions' opponents outside of games against Detroit are 8-2 this season. I believe it's different now. That was after because the Falcons lost this week. And so the Chiefs won, though, so that would be 9-3, and then their other game was against the Seahawks, who won, so 10-3. So Lions' opponents in games not against the Lions are 10-3, and the Lions are 3-1. They are playing good teams. Their schedule is only getting easier. Like, they play the Panthers this week, but then they go against the 3-1 Buccaneers. They got a few tough games. They got the Ravens, who are 3-1 after that, but their schedule gets a lot easier in the second half when they get 2 games against the Bears, 2 games against the Vikings. They get to go against the Packers at home, and that's when you're going to see the Lions, who are already 3-1 against good competition. They should be able to get 10, 11, maybe even 12 wins this season and walk into the playoffs. They're not going to get the 1 seed. I think that's reserved for the 49ers with how good they look. But the Lions should have an advantage.
Watch yourself with the should there, Drew, because the Lions can lion. They can be the same old Lions.
I've heard the same old Lions things enough times in my life. I get it. But I could talk about the Lions all day. Let's move on. A couple more things we do want to talk about in this week's recap. The first being, I did talk about my top 6 teams, Super Bowl or bust. There is one Super Bowl or bust team that is not in that top 6, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. They are 1-3. They lost 27-3 to the Tennessee Titans, a team that might have one of the few quarterbacks in the league that's been worse than Joe Burrow this season and Ryan Tannehill.
But he's just old. It's nothing wrong with Ryan Tannehill. He's just an old QB.
No, 100%. I've said on this podcast before, I have been a staunch Ryan Tannehill defender for years. And I don't want my talk on Ryan Tannehill to equate to me thinking he's been a terrible quarterback forever. This is just that he doesn't have it anymore. And that's okay. He had a number of very good years in both Miami and Tennessee. He was a legitimate starting quarterback in this league. Nothing taking that away. But he's not there anymore. But either way, that team, off the back of Derrick Henry having a renaissance game after 3 not great weeks, the Titans dominated the Bengals, and the Bengals look lost.
I know the Bengals have always started slow in the Burrow era. It's always seemed that way. It's like every year it's been, we're just figuring out our O-line.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to figure it out. And then they figure it out, and then they're dominant in the latter part of the season. This feels different. I don't know. Like, Joe Burrow's still hurt. He's just crying into all that money. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, and you still have that elite talent. You still have the best receiver core on paper, I would say, in the NFL with Chase, Higgins, and Boyd.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Nobody beats that. No. But he can't get the ball out. He can't get the ball to them.
Yeah,
and it's just confusing.
He doesn't have the power on his throw. He's not able to make time with his legs right now. a lot of that's due to the injury, but you know what? We saw like Patrick Mahomes have a bad ankle injury in the postseason last year. He was able to figure it out. We've seen quarterbacks deal with worse. Justin Herbert had broken ribs last year. He was barely able to create any strength with his passes. He was still able to drag that team to the playoffs. Other top-tier quarterbacks have been able to manage in similar situations.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, the Bengals haven't. Now, they do have the Cardinals this week. I believe they have the Seahawks the week after, and then they go into their bye week. You know, if they can pull off those 2 wins, which are winnable games, and Joe Burrow can come back healthy, they have a chance. But they still have games against the Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Browns, 2 games against the Steelers. This is not an easy schedule. And realistically, already having 3 losses, they max out at probably 3 more losses in a tough AFC. Like, I think if they have 4 more losses this season, they're done. And because of that, I think they're missing the playoffs. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but I think it's going to happen.
It's not that bold of a take with how things are going so far. No. And a loss to the Cardinals, you say you had 3-4 more losses in them, but if they lose to the Cardinals, that's a nail in the coffin. Like, who cares about however many losses they have left? You lose to the Cardinals and you're 1-4. That's bad, and especially because you were considered to be a Super Bowl contending team this year.
Yeah, Rob, who's usually here opposite me, he picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. We made Super Bowl bets at the start of the season. He picked the Bengals like that, and that was not a crazy pick. Seems a little crazy now, but this has been one of the biggest fall from graces. I think this has been more dramatic than last year when the Rams went 5-12 after winning the Super Bowl. To me, this is more dramatic than that.
Yeah, because the Rams didn't have Matthew Stafford. They lost their left tackle.
Yeah.
It was different. They lost players, key players.
Yeah, the Bengals seem to be more or less the same team. But
just too much chili. Just ate way too much Cincy chili over the summer.
Exactly.
Everyone's a little slow and gassy.
The last thing I want to talk about before we do move on to the weekly projections and our bets is C.J. Stroud. The Texans won 30-0 against the Steelers, whose defense had looked quite good prior to this. Are the Texans legit? Is C.J. Stroud elite? What are your thoughts, or is this just a couple of good games?
I don't know. He's a rookie QB. It's so it can just be a couple of good games. He's still got to prove out for a few more games to really determine. It's like, no, he's not elite, but he's a very good quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And he's a far exceeding expectation. To be elite, I think you got to pull that Texans team to have some meaningful games in the late end of the season. I don't feel they're going to make the playoffs, although that division is kind of up for grabs right now, and especially with their record right now, they're in the fight for it. But
yeah,
not elite, but hey, it looks really good, and gotta hand it off to that coaching staff for building them up too. It's like they can't go unnoticed in this as well. But yeah, C.J. Stroud looks great.
Yeah, he's definitely been the best of the rookie quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson being great for fantasy. It's tough because he missed a full game. He was out early in week 2. Looked pretty good in week 1. Week 4, they made that comeback, but he was 11 for 25 passing. Yeah, he had over 200 yards, a couple passing touchdowns, rushing the ball well. But I'm iffy on Richardson. Great for fantasy, but I'm iffy on Richardson as a quarterback. Bryce Young has not been him thus far. Obviously, 4 weeks in, let's see. He missed a week as well. So,
is he playing this week?
I think he will be. He missed week 3. Him and Richardson both missed week 3. He was back last week. He's got a Lions pass defense that their rush defense has been really good, but their pass defense has allowed some yards to teams like the Seahawks before. So let's see what he's able to do against the Lions. The Lions pass defense not the greatest out there. Oh, sorry about that. You might see that we're in a bit of a different position. We had some technical difficulties for a few minutes, but we are back and moving on to the weekly outlook, and we'll start with our picks. I'll get my picks on the screen here. as you can see, we do have 2 bye weeks. There are a few teams on byes. I know the Chargers and Seahawks are 2 of those teams. I don't know off the teams off top of head, but looking ahead to this week, and the one game that screams awesome is the Sunday night football matchup, 49ers at Cowboys.
Yeah.
Tina, what are your thoughts on that game?
Just thankfully it's not a team from New Jersey that's on the prime time. This is just glad to see that, this early in the season we're getting a marquee matchup, and it's going to be. I can't wait. It's. I expect big things out of this matchup. I hope it doesn't let me down.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking forward to this matchup and salivating. Now, it's very realistic this won't be a high-scoring matchup. These are 2 phenomenal defenses. Obviously, they both have decent offenses as well, but they are both teams that I think are better known for their defensive capabilities. So this could be a bit of a defensive slugfest. If you're looking for hyper offense, there might be other games that are better suited for your appetites. But if you're looking for a really good football game with 2 teams that very reasonably could be playing each other in the NFC Championship when all is said and done, this is the game you want to watch on Sunday Night Football. I'm taking the 49ers in this game, as is Vegas and Rob. It is in Dallas. Who do you got in this game, Keena?
I got the 49ers. I'd say their defenses are actually pretty comparable in terms of what they put on the field, but it's just the 49ers have a far more dynamic offense. So you can only cover so many guys. You have CMC, Debo, Ayuk. It's
Jorge Kittle. Do not forget about Jorge Kittle.
Yeah, you got George Kittle, and then you also got an amazing fullback that they managed to work into their scheme, which is Juszczyk. He does work back there for them.
Yeah, the fact that you have the best fullback in the league and you by no means need him whatsoever it is wild. It's wild to me. But yeah, as you can see, I'll put the picks back up on the screen here. My picks for the week. Some of the upsets I have, Jets at Broncos, I have as an upset right now. Same with Texans at Falcons. I'm buying into what I saw from both these teams last week. And I don't trust the Broncos even though they're at home. And the Falcons, good team, but Texans have looked really good too. The final upset I'm taking on the week, I believe there is one more. Oh yeah, I'm taking the Cardinals to beat the Bengals. We talked about that a little earlier in the episode. I'm taking the Cardinals in that game. I think the Bengals are going to be 0-4. Yeah, the Cardinals only have 1 win against the Giants, but the Cardinals have played incredibly tough teams the last 2 weeks, the Cowboys and the 49ers, and they beat they didn't beat the Giants. They beat the Cowboys. And they put up a fight against the 49ers. This is a solid team that's only getting better as Josh Dobbs gets more integrated. And unless the Bengals figure it out, the Cardinals at home, I think, have a reasonable shot at taking down the Bengals.
I think I'm with Rob on this one. I think the Bengals win just because there's so much at stake for them. If they don't, there's got to be some clinging on last ditch in that Bengals room that they're just like, oh, we need this one bad. If this one goes, we're toast.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that same mentality should have been there this past week when they lost 27-3 to the Titans. Like, that seemed like equally as much of a must-win game to me.
Mm-hmm. Now they're just even more desperate.
Yeah.
But then eventually you're so desperate that you just fall off the cliff, and they're getting close.
Exactly. So those are my picks. You can see on the screen. I do have the Giants at Dolphins as my lock of the week. Again, I do this under Survivor League rules, meaning that I do not pick the same team to be the lock of the week again. If you've been following my picks, as well as if you've been following Rob's picks, you would be alive in a Survivor pool. And this week, I have the Giants losing to the Dolphins winning. That is my lock of the week. Rob and I differ on that one. Rob has his lock of the week as the Lions over the Panthers. I'll quickly put Rob's picks up on the screen now so you can see who Rob has. A few of the ones he differs is he does have the Bengals winning in that game. Outside of, and he has the Saints beating the Patriots. Outside of that, though, we do have identical picks for the most part. And then we'll compare that here, put up the Vegas's picks. You can see they have the Falcons. They have, and everything else, they have similar picks to what Rob and I have. They also have the Broncos as well. That's where Rob and I both picked upsets. One thing quickly to note on these picks, when we show Vegas's picks, they are as of the Tuesday before. So perfect examples. Last week, we had Vegas picking the Browns, the Rams, the Browns, the Colts, and the Giants. While, yes, those lines all moved to being the Seahawks favored against the Giants, the Ravens favored against the Browns, and the Rams favored against the Colts. Given Rob and I are required to pick as of the Tuesday, our odds are based on what Vegas has at the Tuesday, and Rob and my picks are scored based on that, so are Vegas's. I went 13-3 last week, but I 100% would have taken the Ravens had I known Deshaun Watson wasn't playing, but that's still a loss for me. And so it's also going to be a loss for Vegas because we're basing it off the information we have on the Tuesday. That's just a quick public service announcement.
Very honorable of you. Stick with the picks. Stick with the odds.
Yeah, it's sometimes tough to make picks early because there's a lot that can change. You know, guys can be healthy, guys can get hurt, but you got to stick with your picks.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's it for the picks. Wanting to move on to our betting corner. Again, usually this is best bets with Bookie Bob. Obviously, Bookie Bob's not here this week, so we have best bets with Bookie Keena.
Yeah, so I actually am the one I will claim responsibility for this for getting Drew into sports betting. Up here in Canada,
we're honorable boy. I didn't bet.
Yeah. But I enticed you with the promo from FanDuel. Up here in Canada, FanDuel is what we choose. The last 2 weeks, I've been perfect on my 3-game parlays that I've put together. So this week, I'm going extra big. I'm going a 5-game parlay with spreads. So I've got Lions 8.5 over the Panthers. I think the Lions keep rolling. And, you know, that defense Lions has is going to eat up Bryce Young. I got the Jets plus 2.5 over the Broncos. I don't know how the Jets aren't favored in this, how they played against the Chiefs. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know what Vegas is seeing, but I'm taking the Jets here.
The game's in Denver. That's the only thing I can think of.
But it doesn't matter. The Broncos are so bad. I got 49ers covering minus 3.5 over the Cowboys. Like I said earlier, that 49ers defense is so dynamic, and you only can cover so many people that, you know, if you put all your time on Debo, well, they'll toss to Kittle. You put all your time on Kittle, oh no, we're going to go to CMC, and he's going to score 3 touchdowns. Also, put anytime TD on Christian McCaffrey. He scored a touchdown in his last, 13 games?
Yeah, 13 straight games with a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Then I have Chiefs covering minus 5.5 against Vikings. I think Mahomes is going to have a bounce back week. The game against the Jets wasn't Patrick Mahomes we've seen, and Vikings defense.
Yeah,
can they stop a high-powered offense? No.
Yeah, Vikings defense is a defense that you can get your offense right against.
Yeah, exactly. Kirk Cousins and Jay Jettas, they'll be able to keep up, but Kansas City has a good defense. And then finally, I got Titans plus 1.5 over the Colts. I'm going against Rob and Drew. And the reason being, I just think that Titans defense is a divisional game. It's going to be tough. I think they're going to prey on the QB. Anthony Richardson has been good, but I think they have a win against the Colts. Not only covering, I think they win against the Colts there. So that's my 5-game parlay.
Yeah,
and it's
how much you put in and does it pay out?
$10, and it pays out $228.
I mean, that'd be a nice little chunk of change. Absolutely.
I like the big odds. They're just fun.
Yeah. So, what I got going, so Usually Rob and I do some weekly specials. FanDuel hadn't posted them at the time that we're filming this. Apologies. Usually we would go for weekly specials, but we still did make some bets. Before getting into that, though, a quick recap on Rob and my last week bets. Last week, I made one bet on this show, that being Tua and Josh Allen to combine for over 600 passing yards. They beat it by the skin of their teeth, but I still won on that bet. I also, if you follow us on Twitter, I did post 2 additional bets that I made, one 4-leg parlay and one 2-leg parlay on the Lions-Packers game. Both of those hit with some pretty good returns, so another good week from me. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I have maintained my undefeated streak in terms of my what I'll call qualifying bets. Matt here knows I do make some kind of like as it happens bets on games. I haven't won all of those, but
this is a technicality.
The technicality. But all my bets that I make on this show, all the bets that I share with people on this channel have won and continue to win. So we'll see. And this week I have $10 on a parlay for the Cardinals to win and the Cardinals-Bengals game to go under 44.5 points. I bet $10 on that. That pays out about $40. Pretty good return. And this is a bet that, you know, the Bengals have scored 3 points in 2 of 4 games. Their offense has not been moving. T. Higgins might be injured this coming week. And the Cardinals have shown against a team like the Cowboys that they can hold up offenses. They haven't been scored against a ton. The 49ers put up a decent amount of points on them, and the Giants had a good first half against them, but Cardinals defense hasn't been terrible. The Bengals offense has been terrible. To me, this screams under, and this screams another Bengals choke job. And I actually really like this bet. I think I'd bet this bet on even money if that's what was available, but we're taking it with some big pluses. And then Rob had a bad week of betting. Rob put all his eggs in the basket of the Steelers and the Bengals, both in terms of parlays and prop bets, and those teams did absolutely nothing on the weekend.
Both high-powered offenses.
Yeah, put up a combined total 9 points among those two teams. And so Rob took a bunch of L's, but he's moving on. He's moving different this week. He's taking a $5 Chiefs and Lions both to win parlay. It's a minus 125, so doesn't quite pay. It $5 pays out a $4 profit. It's a pretty risk-free bet. He might put in some more once the weekly specials come out, but I think it's a good bet. Lions against the Panthers, Chiefs against the Vikings. These are 2 really good teams against 2 not-so-good teams. I will state, though, quickly, I am scared for the Lions against the Panthers. Last season, we ended 8-2. Our 2 losses came to the Bills in a really close game and getting absolutely decimated by the Panthers. Now, this ain't Matt Rule. Matt Rule scared me, but we'll see.
Different Lions, Drew. Have faith.
Yeah, have faith.
Because I'm also a vested interest in this game. The Lions don't.
Yeah, it's part of your big
the
parlay.
Panthers.
And you get an 8.5 point spread. I hope you're right.
I think the Lions, if they win big, right?
I mean, yeah.
Outside of Kansas City.
The last 2 weeks we've won by 14, but yeah, week 1 we won by 1. Week 2 we went to overtime, so much closer games. Either way, though, that's it for best bets with Bookie Keena. And that's it for this week's episode. We will be back next week. I believe Rob should be back by then, but this might not be the last time you see Keena. We might invite him for some podcasts here and there if you guys enjoy watching Keena, especially if we got a big Bills game coming up or some big Bills news. Might be good to have our resident Bills fan in the house. But yeah, that's it for the episode. Anything you want to say before we leave, Matt?
Josh Allen about to barbecue some Jaguars this weekend in London, England.
Keena, you know that they don't eat flavorful food in London. Like
Oh,
in
right.
the UK, they boil everything. They don't eat flavorful food. I can say that because I lived there.
They don't even put in barbecue sauce in the baked beans.
No, it's just straight baked beans. A little bit of salt and pepper, and they're like, ooh.
No, just excited for the weekend, and best of luck to everyone out there with their bets and picks, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.
Yep. Hopefully we'll see you soon, Matt. But with that, we're gonna sign off. So we'll see y'all later. Peace.